Yo, what's up lads, you're with Budget Monk and welcome to a new YouTube video. Today I'd like to talk about something which I don't see people really take advantage of, so maybe people are aware of this, but it seems like they're not from my perspective, and there is good application for this where you can actually gain a ton of Crownland at a certain cost. Here we are playing as Hamburg. I've actually made a claim, as you can see, on two of our neighbors, and I'm playing on normal mode with console commands, guys. Win wars. So we're straight up cheating. Because I just want to... I'm not worried about actually playing the game, trying to win. I just simply want to demonstrate what it is that we're here for. So with that being said, pretend I would have done this right at the beginning of the game, right? Before making claims. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sell and then seize. Pretty standard stuff, right? Well, keep in mind that you no longer can sell when you have less than 10 Crownland. So what that means is that if we take a look here, of course, we're going to take the admin and I'm going to take the mill. And it's up to you whether or not you want to sell or take the Diplo points. But you can't really do both anymore. In my case, I have a 5 in Diplo. So, in my opinion, Diplo is just not that valuable in the current patch, and I'm going to elaborate on that after we demonstrate what we're talking about. So we'll elaborate on that later. But we're skimping on the Diplo points here because I have a 5. Now, with that being said, we can see the 5 Crownland. Well, I'm not going to have only 5 in Diplo for long. We are going to get the additional Diplo from the estates. These will turn into zombies, as we call them, once the tag is eliminated, so we may as well engage this. And you might say, is that really all you're going to do with the estates? And the answer is yes, that's the purpose of this video. The reason we took both of these is they actually cause no influence at all, no increased influence to the estates. Now, we're on 5 Crownland. Having annexed our friend here, which of course we would actually have to work for, we're on 10 Crownland. And now we're going to take the Diplo. But we're not done. Let's start another war here. Our aggressive expansion could certainly manage this in a real game. Although you might have to wait until the Teutons die, that kind of thing. This nation here, Lundberg, actually allied to Poland. That's really horrible. Maybe this would have been more manageable. We whacked his troops really quickly, we could separate Brunswick and win that war. But luckily we don't have to win the wars here because we're cheating. I'm just trying to demonstrate the principle that my 0 goes to 10 Crownland. So there you are. I mean, in a good game with good RNG, that's probably somewhat realistic that within the 5-year loop, right, of selling and seizing, we are able to pull this off. Annex 2 of our little neighbors, and you can see, having taken 1 of each monarch point and selling Crownland, we are sitting at 10 Crownland. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to demonstrate that, and the reason is because I do not think that people are applying this as much as they could. I don't think it's completely broken. I think that it is fairly somewhat balanced and that it has applications in some situations and not in others. So what I will say is that I challenge you guys, if you're not familiar with this, to play a game, and particularly as a smaller nation like a one-province minor, and manage your estates in this fashion by not taking anything that increases your influence whatsoever. So with that being said, there are the monopolies which increase your loyalty and not the influence. Most nations are going to be able to take that, but there's not a monopoly on fish. So as we have expanded, we now have access to livestock, and there is a monopoly here. This is really important because one of the downsides you're going to find is that the equilibrium is really bad. You're going to want to make sure to sell and then seize so that your estates are not as upset. But if the equilibrium is really low, they will be upset, right? This just really helps us out there without increasing the influence. So I challenge you guys to do that. Have some fun, just gaining Crownland as you go. And what I will do is elaborate on a few things. The reason why we're gaining Crownland is, quite frankly, just because it is so low, but so is the influence low of our estates. So that's simply how it works. What else? The penalties here. The penalties here are just quite frankly not that harsh, particularly the smaller you are. So autonomy is obviously going to have quite some consequence on your reform progress. Now, in this case, if you were playing as a republic, for example, you're going to get a lot of reform progress, especially if you plan to ultimately re-renovate things and become a monarchy. You're not going to have to worry too much about reform progress, so we can take advantage of that. The Liberty Desire and Subjects thing is basically irrelevant, at least in the early game. Let's go ahead and release a subject to sort of demonstrate that here. What you'll see if you look closely is it is Liberty Desire from subjects development increased by 50%. Well, if you look at their Liberty Desire, you'll see that they have only one modifier based on their development, and that obviously is relative to the size of their country. So it is that one modifier that is increased. And 50% of nothing is nothing, right? So obviously only when they are actually of a considerable size, at that stage, is that going to become a problem. The autonomy, we've spoken about that a little bit, but keep in mind that your capital will always be at 0 autonomy. Hence, I've been making sort of pseudo OPM guide style videos, you know, playing as a one province minor or other small nations in mind, because that's what I've been doing myself and enjoying that. So this, obviously, the larger you are, the more the autonomy is going to have a consequence on your nation. And then the tax, well, it is what it is. You're simply going to make more money, guys, selling Crownland every 5 years than you are enduring the penalty. But the reality is you may find there are other issues, obviously, like aggressive expansion, which can slow you down. But as you can see, by using this method, our Crownland isn't that bad. You actually have a harsher penalty as you go below 10. We're keeping it above 10, even though we're exploiting this badly, and so maybe you can do the same, maybe you can build it up. But finally, there's the statutory rights event. There is some legitimacy, guys, if you become a very large nation or you're playing as a very large nation, to actually take their statutory rights and then cancel it in a way to fix your Crownland. But you're just simply going to want to endure it if you're a smaller nation like this. So I will address the Diplo thing I was talking about before we move on, as the main crux of this video has been taken care of. I'm just talking about a few things. In regards to Diplo points, nowadays you can use these concentration thingies, you know, features in the game to actually concentrate development in your capital. And the amount of development that you gain is based on the cost of developing your capital. So if you happen to have excess Diplo points, if we did, what are we realistically going to do with them? We're either going to very inefficiently develop, or we're going to develop our capital at this stage of the game. And if you develop your capital, there's also the pillage capital mechanic, works the same way. Quite frankly, nowadays, your capital gains a decent amount of development. That's just how it works. And if you develop, it's actually going to have diminishing returns and get less development than it would get from other game mechanics. So basically, combined with that fact and the fact that it's a lot easier to get innovativeness now, that it's a lot less forgiving, well, there's simply just not that much importance in having a lot of Diplo. So if you have a 4 in Diplo, if you're able to overcome your enemies or your rivals quite easily, get your power projection up, that sort of thing, then I honestly think Diplo is quite overrated in the beginning of the game, unless, I don't know, you're really trying to rush a diplomatic idea, but even that is bottlenecks behind admin. So there's quite some legitimacy, depending on which nation you're playing and which stats you have, to just completely skip Diplo and instead sell Crownland right off the bat and take admin and mill. I definitely think that is the case. Of course, everybody likes Monarch points, and you would eventually tap into this, but I just mean initially selling instead of taking the Diplo, regardless of how you manage your estates. With that being said, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope that tip benefits you. Like I said, I challenge you to play around with it. Don't take anything which increases influence. See how you like it. Check out the different applications. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in another video or over my live stream.